After a minute, Makulu saw his brother's ghost. "Why are you looking for me?" his brother asked. "I want to know how you died," Makulu replied. His brother said, "You will learn more at the right time," and then disappeared. In a small village in a land far away, a boy named Makulu lived with his big family. Makulu had many brothers and sisters, and after his eldest brother died, he became the oldest boy in the family. Makulu was a gentle and peaceful child. He loved going to church and serving as an altar boy. He joined a group called the Crusaders, who were dedicated to helping others and being kind. Everyone thought Makulu was very special, and some even said he might become a priest one day. But when his eldest brother died, Makulu felt very sad and angry. He wanted to find out who was responsible. Secretly, he began to learn about magic and visited people who practiced it. He talked to spirits and locked himself in a small room to meditate. But he couldn't find the answers he was looking for. Instead, he felt more worried and confused. One night, Makulu met a young man named Ntumba Dukup. Ntumba could do amazing things with magic. He could make money, watches and jewelry appear out of nowhere. Even though Makulu saw these wonders, he still felt empty inside and wanted to learn more. One day, a new priest came to their village. He was a kind man, very tall and strong. He liked Makulu and often talked to him about life and his future. The priest saw something special in Makulu. One Sunday after church, the priest invited Makulu to his house in the evening. Makulu was excited and made sure to be on time. He thought they would talk about church activities, but things took a different turn. After supper, the priest looked at Makulu and said, "Among all the young people in the parish, I see something special in you." One day, the kind priest called Makulu to talk about something very important. He told Makulu, "I need to warn you. Your life is in danger. 9 people in your family who practice dark magic are after you, just like they were after your brother." The priest told Makulu the names of these family members, and even though some of them lived far away, Makulu believed him. He knew the priest was telling the truth. Makulu was relieved to finally know who had hurt his brother, but now he was scared for his own life. "What should I do to protect myself?" Makulu asked the priest. The pastor said, "Don't worry, I can help you, but you must keep everything secret." Makulu promised to keep the secret. The priest then gave him a small card with a picture of a richly dressed young boy and a prayer called the Prayer to the Infant Jesus of Prague. He told Makulu to say this prayer every morning and evening for protection. Makulu followed the priest's advice and felt safe. The priest also taught him how to use the prayer to help with his studies. Makulu could write the names of all his classmates and decide their grades. By praying over the list, he made sure he always got the grades he wanted. Makulu was happy with this new power and thought it was a special kind of magic given by God. But things started to change. He stopped going to church as often and began feeling strange about God. The priest continued to teach Makulu more magic. He gave him a big book called the Methodical Treatise of Practical Magic, full of spells and prayers. Makulu learned how to do many things, like turning leaves into razor blades and making money appear. He even learned to call on spirits from the stars and planets. Makulu was amazed by his new abilities. He made money by cutting paper to the size of banknotes and covering it with a white cloth while saying a prayer. The paper turned into real money, but he had to spend it before sunset, or he would get sick. Makulu also used magic to impress girls. He would write them letters with special spells, and they would fall in love with him. When he wanted to end a relationship, he used another spell to make the girl lose interest in him. Whenever Makulu faced a problem, he used magic to make it go away. He even used spells to cause arguments and break up marriages, by calling on spirits from the planet Jupiter. Makulu learned many powerful spells. When he needed strength for a fight, he called on the spirits of the sun. These spirits fought for him while he stood still and watched. People thought Makulu was fighting, but it was really the spirits. This trick was also used by boxers and wrestlers to win their matches. One Sunday evening after church, the priest asked Makulu to go with him to the cemetery. The sky was getting dark as they walked to the middle of the cemetery. The priest asked Makulu to kneel down on the grass. He started praying, calling for the spirit of the first person buried there. Soon, they saw a ghostly figure coming towards them. When the spirit arrived, the priest said, "I want to talk to the invisible world." The spirit agreed. Then the priest shouted, "Patron Bombard!" Suddenly the ground shook and a strong wind blew. Makulu was very scared, but the priest told him everything would be okay. A loud, deep voice boomed, "Why are you disturbing me?" The priest replied, "I have brought the one you spoke of." Makulu realized they were talking about him. Bombard then asked, "Makulu, why have you come here?" Nervously, Makulu said, "I came with the priest." Bombard paused before saying, "Wait, and I will tell you what to do." The priest and Bombard talked in a language Makulu didn't understand. When they finished, Bombard said, "Makulu, you have doubts. Ask what you want, and I will make it happen." Makulu thought for a moment, and then said, "I want to see and talk to my older brother, who is buried here." After a minute, Makulu saw his brother's ghost. "Why are you looking for me?" his brother asked. "I want to know how you died," Makulu replied. His brother said, "You will learn more at the right time," and then disappeared. Bombard said, "You need to buy me 30 bottles of a special perfume called Os Arabia. Do this, and I will tell you secrets." Back home, Makulu asked his dad for money to buy the perfume. His dad, proud of Makulu for doing well in school, gave him the money. 2 days later, Makulu and the priest returned to the cemetery. Makulu placed the package of perfume on the ground, and it vanished before his eyes. Bombard appeared and said, "Good job, Makulu. I will make a special place in your room where you will get messages. I will also send you a prayer book to learn, a magic chain, and magic powder." 2 days later, Makulu found a letter at the foot of his bed. It gave him a mailbox number and a special phone number. The letter warned that if anyone else read it, they would die. Makulu learned he could talk to the invisible world using a small device like a walkie-talkie or a magic chain with a cross. By putting the end of the cross in his mouth, he could talk to them. The chain could also hurt or heal people, depending on how it was used. A week later, Makulu heard something fall at the foot of his bed at midnight. It was the prayer book. The cover had drawings and his name, Makulu Moana Nkuba. The book had 16 prayers for different things, like talking to the dead or making money. Makulu had 3 months to learn all the prayers. 3 months later, Makulu told the priest he was ready. They went to the cemetery, and Makulu called the spirits. Bombard asked, "Makulu, why do you disturb me?" Makulu said he was ready to show he had learned the prayers. He recited all of them perfectly. Bombard congratulated him, but warned him not to show the book to anyone, or they would die. Makulu could now ask the spirits for anything. Bombard gave him a small device to talk to them any time. Then Bombard said, "You must be baptized first." Makulu found an old bottle of whiskey filled with water and washed himself with it, as instructed. The water didn't run out. That night, Makulu used one of the prayers to ask for $5,000. At midnight, he heard a package fall in his room. It was full of money. Makulu was thrilled and spent the money on drinks and girls. When he ran out, He asked for more and got it. With his new wealth, Makulu bought his first car at age 16. His friends were amazed. Makulu stayed in touch with the invisible world using the cemetery and his special device. However, some family members were jealous. Those who had caused his brother's death tried to harm him, but they failed. One evening, his uncle tried to strike their house with lightning, but Makulu's presence protected them. The priest's time in the village was up, and he didn't want to leave without helping Makulu reach his full potential. Though Makulu believed he had learned everything, the priest revealed there was still much more to discover. They arranged to meet at midnight in the old cemetery. At midnight, the priest and Makulu met. The priest carried a small carpet. Together, they walked to the cemetery, where the priest called upon the spirit of the first person buried there. This spirit would guide them into the invisible world. The priest signaled for Makulu to join him on the carpet, and instantly, their spirits left their bodies, which remained under the guard of the spirit. Their spirits traveled to a beautiful, hidden world. They arrived in a magnificent city with wide, decorated streets and towering buildings. They walked down Cemetery Street to number 102, the headquarters of magic. They were warmly welcomed. In the grand building, Makulu saw a large photo of himself on the waiting room wall. The priest explained it had been taken during their first visit to the cemetery. Soon, they met three powerful beings. The apprentice recognized them as angels. There was Patron Bombard, who managed all the administration and external relations. Patron Madrak, a warrior and judge, could make people sick, paralyze them, or even cause death. Lastly, there was Mademoiselle Marie-Jeanne Brignier, an Indian woman in charge of finances. After meeting the Guardians, Makulu was introduced to other earthly people who had connections to the invisible world, especially those from Makulu's town. In a grand hall, he saw many historical figures, scientists, inventors, businessmen, politicians, and members of the Catholic clergy. The meeting was to officially introduce Makulu to the invisible world. Pope Paul VI, who was still alive, led the ceremony. He represented all the living who visited the invisible world and held supreme power. The Pope gave a long speech, and then Makulu was named Master of the Third Degree, 16th Power. The ceremony ended with a wine of honor, which was actually human blood. In this world, there was no day or night, just a constant ambience. After this first contact, the priest, with Bombard's permission, took the apprentice on a tour. They wandered through magnificent buildings and streets until they reached a tall, closed gate. Someone opened it and asked them to stay on the threshold. Inside, people were carrying heavy burdens, some were hanging upside down, and others were being tortured. These were the souls of those who had committed suicide, being punished because they had no right to end their own lives. Further along, they saw a vast, deep well. The guide explained it was hell, but it wasn't open yet because the time hadn't come. As their time in the invisible world came to an end, they returned to Bombard to say goodbye. With all formalities completed, the priest and the apprentice returned to the cemetery. To Makulu's surprise, it was still midnight. In the invisible world, time didn't pass as it did on Earth. Though it felt like they had spent only 30 minutes in that world, they had actually been there for 3 days. During their absence, spirits, demons, had taken on their appearances and carried out their daily activities on Earth. However, his parents didn't understand his activities. One day, his father accused him of being a thief. The apprentice denied this and promised to buy his father a car soon. His father, thinking he was making wild claims, didn't believe him. Bombard instructed the apprentice to buy a piece of land and leave his parents' house. The chosen site was near the hospital in Kananga, close to the cemetery. This location was ideal for the apprentice to connect easily with the invisible world and visit the cemetery without obstruction. Living in a traditional society, Makulu continued to face attacks from sorcerers. The sorcerers tried their best to destabilize Makulu and even attempted to kill him, but they failed. Makulu's power was too much for them. Unable to harm him, they decided to accuse him in the invisible world. The apprentice was unaware of their plans. One day, he received a message to appear in the invisible world at midnight. He quickly informed the priest, who decided to accompany him. At midnight, they returned to the invisible world. There, the apprentice was told to wait for his accusers to appear before Judge Madrak. Though surprised, the priest reassured him. Soon, 9 familiar figures, all members of his family, arrived and sat nearby. The judge asked them to step forward and confirm if they knew each other. The procedure was the same as on Earth. After confirming they knew each other, the judge asked the accusers why they had brought charges against Makulu. They all replied together that they were afraid of his rising power and feared he might harm them in the future. So, they wanted to eliminate him first. The court session ended with their condemnation. Each was given a token with a date on it, marking the time of their own death. They returned to Earth in shame. Makulu was warned that these sorcerers would seek revenge, but they would not succeed. Returning to Earth, the apprentice noticed a change in the sorcerers' attitudes. One afternoon, as the apprentice rested in his room, he heard a strange noise against the wall. He barely had time to get out of bed before he saw a large black snake ready to bite. He then called his younger brother for help. His brother approached with caution, but the snake guarded the entrance, ready to strike. His brother first tried throwing stones at it, but to no avail. Suddenly, a parishioner named Buabua arrived with a slingshot and killed the snake. This scenario repeated several times as the sorcerers launched counterattacks, trying to steal the apprentice's chain or bite him, but they always failed. Eventually, all the sorcerers who killed his brother died. One day, the invisible world commanded Makulu to get married. In his house stood a large wardrobe filled with millions of dollars. To ensure his wife never worried about money, Makulu dedicated a drawer to her. She could take as much as she wanted without asking him. Even if she emptied it at night, the drawer would magically refill by morning. On a bright morning, Makulu reminded his father that it was time to give him the promised car. Neither his father nor his nephew accepted the offer initially, but they went to the store anyway. To their surprise, the store greeted them warmly. "Boss, your car is ready." "Do you need a driver?" said the store manager. Makulu's father was amazed by this. While he continued to grow his businesses, he maintained good relationships with the Catholic clergy and parishioners. Despite his youth, he was elected as president of the youth club. During a meeting in the invisible world, Makulu asked Bombard to show him Jesus Christ. When he uttered that name, everyone knelt, leaving him bewildered. After 5 minutes, they rose, and Bombard strictly forbade him from mentioning that name again, referring to him as Old Dad. Several days later, Bombard took Makulu to a garden in the invisible world, showing him a man crucified, blood still fresh. He claimed it was the man he sought. Sadly, it was a lie. Later, Makulu discovered it was a demon with a capital D, the one Catholics depict in their images and idols. Curious, Makulu asked Bombard to show him the general director overseeing all activities. A meeting was set for the following Wednesday. Around midnight, he entered the invisible world. Suddenly, a powerful earthquake struck, and they prostrated. The one who appeared was taller than Bombard and had 3 heads. He demanded to know why Makulu sought him. Makulu looked up, seeing his 3 heads speak in turn. Makulu expressed his desire to become a billionaire on Earth. The giant creature told him to first appreciate what he had given him and promised Makulu wealth at age 30. This General Director, commonly known as the Founder General Felix, indeed founded the invisible world. However, he is actually Satan himself, disguised in various forms. Type continue if you want to know how Makulu got in trouble with Satan himself in part 2.